Believe we are recording. Does it say that I'm recording anywhere?
It just popped
Yep.
up.
Sweet. All right. So this is the November 2022 meeting. Thanks to everyone that came out last month to hang out with Julia Hers. I thought her camper setup was pretty phenomenal and pretty awesome. So it was really cool having her on. As always, if you guys have ideas, have anything you want to see, have any feedback for your leadership team, we are happy to take all thrashings that you have for us and any feedback, but especially thrashings. I hear Haven's really into that, so email him. Um, uh, Big shout out to those of you that signed up for Brew Santa. That was pretty awesome. It's really great. We had quite a few people. I think it was something like 23, 24 people that were interested in that. It's a pretty rad thing. So I'm super stoked. But if you signed up, please make sure you get stuff shipped out here in the next couple of weeks. Keep in mind that Thanksgiving is kind of a time sink on shipping. And so if you can get that out, that'd be great. So we can all kind of drink up the next meeting. Because that's pretty much just going to be Brew Santa and just hanging out, chilling, and then whatever other weird contraptions your leadership team can come up with for a meeting with no speaker. And then also don't forget about our experiment series. We're coming up on the tail end of that, actually. We're about to vote for a new Delta Firm Tank winner. So I'm pretty stoked to see who's going to be the fan favorite for the Delta Firm Tank. It's really cool. Doug joined us, and him and some of his buddies in SoCal were able to get an article out, and I don't know if y'all saw it, but it was about a cubed beer, whether you squeeze out the headspace or not, and how that affects it. So it's pretty cool read. Haven, you got anything to tell us about Perfectly Average Brews?
Hold on, I didn't have the thing pulled up. Okay, there we go. Oatmeal stout survey results were out. I think most of everybody here saw those already posted on Discord and Facebook. So we kind of went a little crazy with the guidelines, and we loosened up a little bit and put a lot of different suggestions in there, and just give us all more of a I don't know, kind of what am I trying to say? Just a bigger guideline to work with. So we all have, those different unique beers that that we can send to Marshall at the end of the quarter. And I think it'll be cool. I think this is kind of our most ambitious style yet that we took on. So it'll be a lot of fun. So let me know if you have any questions. I am working on getting that Lalaman yeast out. I just finished the envelopes tonight, so I got to handwrite all the envelopes. I actually have to, the yeast packets are just a little bit too thick to go in a regular envelope to go through the postal service machine. So I take a rolling pin to every single yeast sachet that I send out. So that takes a little bit of time. So it sucks to get these out, but I'm getting them out. I'm working on it. They'll be out by Monday. Yeah, the Learner Brewers got their Imperial yeast, so I think we're all kind of set. So that's gonna be pretty sweet. Looking forward to that. Alex, Learned Brewers, is he still
Yeah,
on?
sure.
Oh yeah, he's still on. Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't figure out video. So yeah, paid membership is finally here. And yeah, I think most people on this call are paid members, but if you're not, we're officially taking dues for 2023. Whatever you pay now, cover all of 2023, of course. And in addition, we've been having some cool perks in the meantime. For example, like Haven said, we just had our Imperial Yeast giveaway. And yeah, if you didn't see Haven's post on Facebook, winners had A10 Darkness show up at their doorstep that was, what, like 3 days old?
3 days old. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that Imperial Yeast shipped us those yeast. I think like the very day that they were packaged. Really awesome.
It had to be, yeah.
And so yeah, and also tonight we're going to post a coupon code for Delta Brewing exclusively for paid members. And yeah, you'll be able to use that code repeatedly. So if you get one firm tank and think it's neat, go ahead and get a second one. And yeah, and of course, all paid members are invited to the super secret Discord channel where we get to talk about things, like plans for the Average Brew series. So, yep, if that sounds like fun, hit me up at alex@thebrewclub.com. And speaking of Discord, I think we'll have Haven talk about trivia night.
Yeah. We talk a lot of shit about Will on the super secret Discord, so it's really fun. So yeah, definitely jump on over there. That's been the most active this last month. It's been great to have everybody in there.
I think talking shit about me brings everyone together.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we're able to do that in the super secret Discord. Trivia night, we started that out just to see kind of what the response was, and shit, what did we have, Alex? Like 25 people join us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it was fun. It was I got a lot of shit for the hard questions that I put in there, but it was still fun to see people come out and just hang. It was like 20 minutes. It didn't take that long. We all had a lot of fun. I have another one set for beer styles, and it's kind of like a beer style riddle trivia. So it's kind of cool. I meant to actually message Will and Alex and Havo this week and see if we wanted to do it this coming week. So watch Discord for that. We might have another trivia. Hopefully we can get like a giveaway set up for that of some sort. I don't know what. But it'd be fun. So we're gonna start doing that on a semi-regular basis. So if you have any like topics you'd like to see for a trivia night or any questions that you'd want put in there, just shoot me a message on Facebook or email, whatever. Yeah, and we'll get that worked up. So, and I suppose I think it's me. Yeah. So Brian Perky from Lalaman, we had him last year. He unfortunately had a personal matter come up late in the week, so he had a bail. We are going to reschedule him for 2023. But in the meantime, we had Mr. Will Lovell join in, and he is going to talk about bias in beer and then answer any questions. And I do want to shout out quick. I don't know if anyone realizes this. Last year on Learn to Brew Day was the first brew club meeting. So it is technically, supposedly, our 1-year anniversary, which is really cool. I can't believe we've been doing this for a year.
Well, Haven, thank you for introducing me, because it would be really silly for me to introduce myself. So I really appreciate that. Here, I'll share a screen, so that'll be fun. Can everybody see my presentation?
Yep.
And if not, I don't know if I care, but we'll see. So cool. So most of you know me because you talk shit about me on Discord, and that's fair play. If that's the biggest feature of the Brew Club, I'm down to be a part of that. But we're gonna talk about bias in beer. So a little bit about myself. Most of you already know it. I've been homebrewing for about 10 years. Recently, I became a contributor at brewlosophy.com. So I'm doing that as full time as you do that job. I mean, I'm already 1/1,000,000th of the way to my new Porsche, so that's pretty great. Super slick job. I'm sorry, people ask me how much I get paid all the time.
Pays really big.
I'm not getting a new Porsche anytime soon. So I started out brewing like over a decade ago. I started out with kind of extract with steeping grains. Fly sparging was the way back then, and it kind of really sounded like a pain in the ass. So I didn't really get into full all grain until batch sparging came along. Got into kegging. I say that kegging and electric all-in-one systems are probably the reason I'm still in brewing. Otherwise, I would have bailed a long time ago, because it's otherwise kind of a pain in the rear. I live here in San Antonio. If any of you are in San Antonio, if any of you plan to come to San Antonio, even Austin, give me a shout. I would love to come hang out, have a beer, whatever, if I'm available. Maybe I have an experiment going on. You guys are more than welcome to hop in on Hop Chronicles, Short and Shoddy Experiments, whatever else. And then that's how you get hold of me. So I got two email addresses that all forward to the same Gmail address. So there you go. So bias in beer. So normally when you think of bias, I guess the Webster definition of that would be something to do with a prejudice, whether positive or negative, towards something. And that's not really what we're talking about here. Today, we want to talk about unconscious bias. And if some of this sounds familiar, I think it's episode 62 or somewhere thereabouts on the Velocity podcast. Like, we're covering a lot of the same material. But unconscious bias is essentially something that you don't really have any control over. You're not intentionally doing it. It's just kind of something your brain automatically does to cope with how you live in this world. And so it's really hard to kind of accept this because we all want to think of ourselves as being thoughtful, kind, considerate people. Although truth be told, I'm kind of an asshole, but whatever. But we want to think of ourselves as like impartial, but we have all these things going on inside of ourselves that we don't really have much control over. And that's where this unconscious bias kind of comes into play. And it's really cool because we have a whole bunch of studies on that are really interesting to see. And so I really like this study. It's called Try It, You'll Like It. It was put on by MIT. I can't see my notes of the authors of who actually did it. But essentially, the study's put on by MIT. There was a regular beer and then a special MIT brew. And the MIT brew was the same as the regular beer, except for they got some Trader Joe's balsamic vinegar and they added that as their secret special ingredient. And then they proceeded to take the regular beer and their special MIT brew and give it to 3 groups. And so one group was blind, meaning they had no idea before or after what was going on. They just said, here's the regular beer, here's the MIT brew with the special ingredient. Which one do you like? The second group was fully aware, meaning that they were told at the beginning, hey, we're serving you 2 beers. The special MIT brew has balsamic vinegar inside of it. And then the third group was able to try the beer. And then after they tried the beer, they were told what was in it. And so it's kind of interesting because when preference data came in, it lines up exactly how you think it would. The fully blind group had the highest preference for the special MIT brew. The fully aware group had the lowest preference for the special MIT brew. And why would that make sense? Well, it makes sense because when you think of beer, the last thing you're probably thinking about is, I want balsamic vinegar in my beer. It's not something that belongs there. It's not an ingredient that you want there. It's not a flavor that you associate with beer. And so your bias tells you that it's going to be bad before you even try it. And so I like this because it kind of takes us through essentially the couple of ways that we see things through the world, and then kind of an in-between kind of way. And so the first way, which is the completely blind group, they were using what we consider to be bottom-up processing. And this is how your brain processes things that you don't have a previous schema for how it works. This is where I really wish I had the really nice sentence I wrote out to describe all this, but you're going to have to deal with me fumbling through it. So essentially what you're doing is you are using previous experience. You don't have any previous experience, so you're having to use external stimuli to take in data to understand what you're doing. And you do this every day. You walk into a room and you don't know what something is. Guess what? You're having to use bottom-up processing to take in data, figure out what that thing is or what it does, if it's useful to you. And so in the beer world, how does that equate? Well, that means that, like, if we're doing something like a Hop Chronicles beer, we want to keep you completely blind to that information so that you don't start jumping to conclusions, which is what brings us to top-down processing. And so top-down processing is something that you have a frame of reference for. So there's experience, knowledge, or expectations that help you develop a schema on how you want to interpret something. So your brain is a very powerful organ. And so if you see something, you're going to fill in those blanks to do it. So if I gave you a Hop Chronicles beer and I said, this has Matueka in it, well, very likely your brain is going to decide that, yeah, Matueka, what do I know about that? Well, it's citrus, it's, kind of lime, lemon rind, maybe tropical fruit. And you're going to probably select those answers because your brain is smart enough to know that that's what belongs there. And so part of the reason Brillosophy and the Brew Club and whoever else wants to keep you blind to these variables is so that you can go in there with that kind of, again, bottom up processing. And so you go in and use that sensory data to kind of overcome that. And just to be aware, just so you know, there's nothing wrong with either of these ways of being in the world. If you didn't use top-down processing, like, you would go crazy. Like, this is just your coping mechanism with existence, because if you had to figure everything out like it's a new novel idea every time, you would expend so much energy and you would just drive yourself absolutely insane. If that makes any sense to anybody. So there's a lot of really cool experiments that people have done that show that expectation influences perceptions. My favorite French guy ever is Brochette, because Brochette essentially lived under a bridge and ate billy goats because he was trolling the wine industry like crazy. I'm going to go over another one of his articles later, but Brochette had a middle of the road red wine, And on one bottle of red wine, he labeled it as Grand Cru. It was like super duper awesome red wine. And the other one, he just labeled as table wine. And so essentially, he took this really same wine, but he took the one with the really great label and he served it to his wine judge friends. And his wine judge friends, of course, used bright, amazing, great, like really positive indicators of how good this wine was. Whereas when they had the table wine, where the only thing was different was the label, they used much more kind of muted, middle of the road descriptors. And it kind of showed us that, like, we want our expectation to be reality, right? So whenever I lived in Germany, I got to experience Westflandern 12, which some consider to be the greatest beer in the world. So you call a beer line, you make a reservation, you drive 3 hours from where I was, and you put this like really great, amazing, top quad in all the world into your trunk. And again, like your expectation, especially from doing all this stuff, is that this is going to be the greatest beer in the world. Now, is that reality? Well, you don't know unless you put it next to a blind test, right? So that's kind of what Brochette did, is he took this middle of the road and put it to a blind test and said, here, tell me this is great or not. And it turns out that, again, these people, you're totally influenced by brand, by labeling. We obviously know that Miller Coors and all those guys have definitely put a lot of money into labeling and research, because who's buying that stuff because it's one's better than the other. I love Miller Lite. Brosby did another experiment called the impact of expectation on perception. And that's really fun because Marshall basically trolled the neighborhood, and he gave everybody a blind triangle test. And your expectation of a blind triangle test is one of those beers is different, right? And so essentially all 3 beers were the same, but everyone picked a different beer. And so it's kind of funny because, again, he even left the option in there that, red cup's different, blue cup's different, green cup's different. They're all the same. Only one person picked they're all the same, which ironically was Tim of Jersey and Tim Beer Review fame. And so, again, when you're handed a blind triangle test, you expect one to be different. So the expectation guides your perception to not even considering that they could all 3 be the same. Another really fun one that shows expectations influence perceptions is Marshall did one that's the impact of knowledge of the triangle test performance has on the level of confidence and degree of difference perceived. So this one I have a cool fun chart because otherwise it's really hard to talk about. So basically this was another triangle test where everyone was given the exact same beer in each cup. People that selected the red cup were told they were right. People that were I'll make up cup colors because I don't remember and my notes are hidden away. People that are given the blue cup were told that they were incorrect. And the green cup were told that nothing. They weren't given any information. And so the people that were told they were right, guess what? They were extremely confident they were right whenever they were asked how confident you were. Because essentially, which one's different? Hey, you're right. What was your level of confidence? Well, if you're told that you're right, you're going to say that you were extremely confident. And I don't know, I guess Will's done some triangle tests. I know there's some people on here that have probably done some triangle tests. What I've noticed is that there are some people that when they do their triangle test, they are dyed in the wool convinced that they are 100% correct. And if you tell them they're correct, it's going to, again, confirm that bias. Ironically, the people that were told they were incorrect, nobody selected that they were extremely confident in that selection. And then the ones that weren't told anything kind of fell more in line with the ones that were told they were correct, because let's just face it, like if you don't know it, again, I've had those people that you didn't tell anything to and they were just so 100% positive they were right, and it's kind of funny to watch when you get to dash their hopes and dreams. Come on, Will, you like dashing people's hopes and dreams, don't you? There he goes. Okay, so carrying on, so expectations and perception continued. Anytime I can post a picture of Alan Rickman, I post a picture of Alan Rickman. So there's this fun B-rate movie called Bottle Shop, and it's about the Judgment of Paris, which happened in like 1976. Essentially, there was this evil, I don't know, he's not really evil, but there was this British wine merchant that decided that he was tired of people talking about Napa Valley wine, so he's going to put it to the test, and he was going to have these Napa Valley California wines go up against these really fancy, high-class French wines. And today, that's not really such a big deal, right? Because we're all pretty used to Napa Valley and, I guess, French wines being talked about in the same sense. But back in that day, that was a pretty big leap, right? And so the story of Bottle Shock, it talks about the white wine category, and eventually these fine Parisian judges were able to say that this Napa Valley wine was better than all these French wines in the blind test. And so today, again, by these standards, like, it's not a big deal. But fast forward to the early 2000s, and then we have Time Magazine putting on the Judgment of Princeton. And the Judgment of Princeton matches up these nice, expensive French wines with bottles of wine from New Jersey. And I don't know about you, but when I think about wine in New Jersey, I think about rock climbing in Louisiana. It just doesn't make sense to me. You just do what you do, right? And so they had these, and the bottles of wine from France in this one were like several $100 bottles of wine going against these kind of modestly priced $20, $30 bottles of New Jersey wines. And again, I don't have my things right in front of me, but I believe it was second, third, and fifth that the white wines took from New Jersey in the wine category. So France won, but second, third, and fifth out of 10 came from New Jersey. And then in the red wine category, I believe they got third place in red wines. And so these wines that are like world class, should have blown anything from New Jersey out of the water, actually scored in the same vein as bottles of wine from France. That seems bizarre to me. Of course, in Bottle Shock, Alan Rickman plays the evil wine merchant from the UK with nefarious intent, but it's kind of a cool movie. Go check it out. I'll plug Alan Rickman any day. So anyways, so those are all things like, again, your perception, your idea of quality is going to bias you on what you expect from something. So the other way that your unconscious bias plays at you is appearance. And appearance is kind of a fun one, because if you read BJCP guidelines, I think appearance only counts for like 3 points. Anybody got a BJCP score sheet up? It's like 3 points, I think. And so my man Brichette, he's the man, my favorite French guy ever. He did a white wine versus red wine category. Oh, Ben Smith confirming 3 points. Thanks, Ben. And so basically wine, the white wine was just a normal white wine. And then they had a red wine where they actually gave it a neutrally flavored red food dye. And so the white wine they gave to everyone, and everyone pretty well agreed that the character was like floral, honey, citrus, things that you normally associate with white wine. Now, when they got to the white wine that was doctored up to look like a red wine, it was kind of all over the map. But the number one term that people used for the red wine was chicory. So how do you go from floral, honey, how do you go from all those things to chicory with the exact same wine? And the reality is that appearance influences how we perceive these beers. Marshall did a similar experiment when he went to New Zealand. It was kind of on a lesser scale, but he went to the New Zealand Homebrew Conference, which actually sounds like a really awesome time. I kind of want to go to New Zealand to a homebrew conference myself. But he got a local guy to brew up a blonde ale using local ingredients, New Zealand malts and hops. And then to one beer, they served a half the room with as a blonde ale, and the other one they added Cinnamar to it, which is a I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Cinnamar, but it's just I think they use carafa extract basically, and they use it to adjust color, and so it doesn't actually have any flavor impact on the beer. And so the Cinnamar beer was served out of the half room, and the people that drank the normal blonde beer, typical descriptors like kind of crackery, straw, light. And then when you started getting over to the Cinnamar beer, which is the same beer in a blonde ale, you started getting descriptors like roasty, chocolate, things that aren't even the same, right? So it's kind of wild that you would have these two beers side by side same beer, but again, just that one appearance makes so much of a difference. And so the funniest quote of my entire presentation here is that preconception guides perception. And so Denny Kahn says that a lot. And so, I mean, we talk about competing as a club. We talk about competing as brewers. We have a whole competition section in our Discord channel, and we encourage you to compete, right? But why does visuals matter? So so ideally you're BJCP judge, you know what category it is, but you don't know anything else. And so you should be pretty blind and pretty impartial. But the problem is that there are other things that show you something different. One of those things is, what if your bottle is underfilled? What do you think a judge is going to see with an underfilled bottle? Do you think he might think about oxidation? Maybe infection? Again, there's more oxygen in that underfilled bottle. So what's going on? What do you think that they're going to look for? And since you know that preconception guides perception, if they're looking for oxidation, they're probably going to find it. If they see like a kind of a dirty label, like the excess of the label on the outside, if it's dirty on the outside, do you think they might think that it's dirty on the inside? Again, if they see that preconception is going to guide their perception. So knowing that, they're going to assume it's dirty on the inside. So they're going to find if they're looking for infection, they're probably going to find it. Like, again, our brains are powerful organs, and as much as we want to think that we can put aside these unconscious biases, it's really difficult to do, guys. And so kind of the thing is mind your P's and Q's. Make sure that you have a very highly carbonated beer going in there. Make sure you have, appropriate headspace to overfilled, I would say. Make sure your bottles are clean. Make sure everything looks perfect, because when you go into these competitions, these judges are supposed to be impartial and just judge you based off of this thing. But again, anything you give them to be a hint as to why your beer is bad, they're going to look for it. And if they're looking for it, they're going to find it. So definitely keep that in mind, guys. So kind of just a reminder, since this is only about a 20-minute presentation anyways, none of these ways of perceiving the world, none of these ways of looking at things are wrong, right? Your top-down, bottom-up processing, this is just how your ancestors before you learned to cope with the world, right? So none of it's wrong. Again, fun story. I don't know how many of you watch The World According to Jeff Goldblum on Disney Plus. Anybody? I love Jeff Goldblum. But yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, so they were talking about with a psychiatrist about why when you're 8 years old, why does it seem like summer runs on forever versus now that you're older, why does it go by so quick? And part of that is when you're young, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, you're having a novel experience almost every day of your life, right? So you're having to have this new experience, having these neural pathways open up every day. And these are things that keep you young, but they're also things that keep you interested and kind of make time slow down, because you're having to use a lot of energy. You're having to use a lot of thought and a lot of process. And so as an adult, I know that when I go into new situations, it's much more tiresome now. Sometimes it's invigorating, but sometimes it's really tiring, really tiresome. And so, but we still need these new experiences to keep ourselves young, to keep ourselves creating new neural pathways, to keep our brains active. Otherwise, it would get kind of boring. So that's kind of where this bottom up versus top down processing comes into in your day to day, is make sure to do new novel things so that you can, experience something different, experience something new. Because it's a really cool way. And if you didn't, it'd be a really boring way to experience the world. So, yeah, there's some references. Cool. Anybody have any questions? Awesome. I have no questions. Perfect. I have a question. Curtis, do you need a beer? Yeah, go in there and get a beer. Sorry, my neighbor needs a beer. All right, what you guys got?
That was a good presentation.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, especially the bottom up and the top down processing. Like that's stuff we do every single day, every single moment of every single day. But putting it into words is kind of eye opening. It's interesting, and thinking about it in terms of beer is fascinating too.
Well, and even if you take it really simple, like when you walk into a room, like you know what a chair is. You don't have to think about what a chair is. And if you had to think about what a chair is every single time, you would go crazy. Because again, when you start doing these, I'm sorry, Will, I'm about to laugh. That's an amazing question. I love it. I'll get to it in a second. Okay, I'm going to drink because I laughed during your question. But yeah, so if you had to think about what a chair was every time you walked in a room, you go crazy, you go mad, because that's just a lot of mental energy to have to use to figure out what a common everyday item is that you use every day. Whereas other times you walk into a room and you see like this new tool, this new toy, this new whatever, and it's cool to go use your bottom up processing to figure out what that is. So Will wants to know, does bias affect your pizza eating experience? Because people need to know. And I agree. People do need to know. So I would say that it definitely does. So most of us has had pepperoni pizza. And so we kind of have an expectation of what pepperoni pizza is. But let's say if I was to replace your pepperoni with like red Twizzlers that were flattened out, you'd be pretty pissed because you would get this nasty licorice mess instead of pepperoni pizza. So definitely bias does affect that. Would you recommend eating a pizza upside down to blind yourself to the toppings? For most people, no, but Alex, for you, 100%. Yes, as my neighbor just said, pizza's like sex. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. And that's now unrecorded. So
someone needs to go and look at Ed's picture that he just posted on the Brew Club of the bottle that he judged at a competition, because oh my god, yeah, I'd perceive that beer as not great.
Okay, now I'm going over there to look at it. Jeez.
Yeah, I didn't want to share it in the chat, but
pretty rough.
Yeah, I guess
see, everyone's wrinkling their nose. Yeah, you can see it. It's legit.
Oh, did Alex finally post it in here?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, nothing about that says, man, I just really want to drink this beer that you couldn't even...
Or that I worked really hard for it.
Yeah. Can't even clean the bottle. Yep, I get that.
Shows the importance of even just something like labeling that you may not consider until you're completely done making the beer.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So Ben has a good point because he talks about bias and BJCP comps and how someone thought a Best Show beer was bad despite getting a 43 winning gold. He just didn't like Brett beers. So again, like to me personally, like there's nothing wrong with not liking Brett beers, and there's nothing wrong with thinking that beer is bad because again, to your taste, that beer is bad. But that doesn't mean that it's not a gold medal award-winning beer. Like if you wanted me to judge wheat beers in a competition, you might as well have me judging vomit in a competition because I don't really like wheat beers, and I'm the last person. Like if you want me to say a wheat beer is best in show, I don't think I could do it. Like but I recognize that as a weakness in myself, and hopefully the person that recognized that he didn't like Brett beers would be that way. And then Haven brought up smoked beers and pumpkin beers are gross. But smoked beers, I really like smoked beers. I think they're delicious, but I get it because I brewed a smoked beer a year or so ago. And what happened, I served it to one friend who I personally didn't think it was smoky enough. My wife thought it was perfect, and our friend thought it was an ashtray. So what do you do with that kind of feedback? Well, Will's gone, so the hard-hitting pizza questions are over. Alas.
I think Ben says it great. The PJCP is subjective rather than objective. I think as much as unless you're putting that beer through a machine, there's going to be some subjectivity in judging.
Of course, we're not a gas chromatograph.
Mhm.
And so I think it's fine. I think the farce is when you say, of course, it's completely objective. But I think as long as you can admit to yourself that, yeah, it is going to be biased no matter what we do, or partially biased, there's nothing wrong with that. And I do think getting feedback from others, again, there's nothing wrong with that, but we're all subjective. But as Haven knows, when he gives me his pumpkin spice latte beer, I'm probably just going to throw up instead of drink it.
Oh, it's so good.
You got to make a smoked pumpkin beer. Then you got the double whammy right there.
That's next year. It's already planned.
So I'm going to smoke the gourd and then put it in the pumpkin, or put it in the beer. Is that what's going to happen?
You could.
With no spice.
You use some peat smoked malt and some pumpkin, and you're good to go.
God, peat smoke. Didn't we just have a conversation about this on Discord? Peat smoked malt. That stuff is not great.
I don't know if you'd be able to taste the pumpkin after that.
No.
So the real question is it worth recording any further?
All right, do you want to just take random questions if people have it? Because I got a list of questions.
You have a list of questions?
Oh, you bet.
Do
Like
these questions
legit
need to be recorded? Is the real question.
I don't know if you want them recorded or not. That's the real answer.
All right, let's keep it real. Let's record them. Go for it. Question one, go.
I'm just kidding. I don't actually have any questions, so that's disappointing now that I got.
You got totally the bluff called.
Yeah, I did.
I was going for rapid fire questions.
What was your first beer that you brewed ever?
C. False.
What? Oh, shoot.
None of the above. Crap. First beer that I brewed was an American amber ale from an extract kit, and I used this product called One Star that the homebrew store told me that it would sanitize and clean my fermentation vessel at the same time. And it turns out that they are a liar sometimes, because it was an infected, god-awful green apple-y mess before infected, god-awful green apple-y messes were cool. So it just, it went down as like an epic failure. But then, it's like your baby, so it's your first beer, and so you hate to throw it away. So I would make these weird green apple infected mess with Guinness combos, so it'd be kind of like a snake bite, and it made it drinkable, but it still wasn't good.
Wow.
Will, what do you do for a living that, like, you're talking about bias in beer? Like, do you do psychology similar to Marshall, or is there...
I have absolutely no qualifications to talk about this topic.
Is it just a passion project for you? Like, is it just like a hobby? Like, I mean, you're just into it?
So actually, my day job is IT. So I work in IT. So I actually have no qualifications, but I do. I am a contributor to Brewlosophy, so that does kind of imply that I have an interest, or at least a passion, about exploring bias and exploring people's perceptions. Because I don't think you spend a bunch of hours trying to gather triangle tests from 20, 30 people unless you have some kind of passion around some of this stuff. So, and to me, what separates at least Brewlosophy from other places is that they're willing to put in the work and go the extra mile and figure this stuff out. As garbage garage science and small sample size as it is. And, oh man, Haven, drug dealer. Yep, there we go.
Have you been able to brew a batch for yourself for your pleasure outside of the Brewlosophy experiments since you became a contributor?
Since June, I brewed one batch that I thought would be fun, and it turned out to be garbage because I put too much Chinook in the boil, and it was gross. So, yeah, I did one, and it's gross. Sorry. It got dumped pretty quick. I think Ben told me to dump it. Didn't you tell me to dump it? You're like, no, it's not going to get better. I'm like, yeah, I think you're right, and I need the space.
Yeah, I'm never afraid to dump a beer. Like, there's so much beer coming through here. There's so much good beer out in the grocery stores. Like, why would you just spend time drinking shit beer? Like, Just dump it. It sucks. It's a hobby. You're not making money off of it. Just get rid of it. Who cares?
I made no money off of that.
Yeah, just throw it away. Continue on. Learn the lesson.
I do what Ben says. It's really Ben and Marshall. They run my life.
I'm the opposite. I commit. If there's a shitty keg or even like a half shitty keg, I'm like, I brewed it. I'm gonna drink it. I probably
Okay, so
shouldn't.
I did
too
a triple
short, man.
tasting before
Mine's
I
too
got on here
short.
this afternoon, and we did like 10 triples, and we did like rating of 10 triples. And I love triples; they're fantastic. And I'm sitting here still drinking. What beer is this, Curtis? Is it the weird double helix IPA beer? Oh, I gotta get this can over here in a minute and show you guys. It's a badass can. But I'm still drinking. But there was one of them that was just so gross. New Belgium's triple is not good. Like I could not stand it. I literally dumped that beer.
Wow.
But on a side note, this is like the coolest can ever. I don't know. It's
That's
like
pretty
a
neat.
double helix.
The hops coming off of it.
Yeah. And so I've never had Cerebral Brewing's Rare Trait IPA, but you know, it's not bad. Especially after 10 triples. There was another one. I think it was an Austin brewery that's going out of business, like Adelberts or something. And they have their triple B or something. It was gross too. Like I ended up taking that to somebody's house and leaving it there, so I didn't have to drink any more of it. So cool. Where else are we going with this? But yes, Ed, I'm not qualified to talk on any of this.
Well, it wasn't like that. Come on now. No, just curious how you get into stuff like that. I mean, hearing stuff like that, just it's fascinating to hear you guys talk about that stuff. And
I think at some point in time in anybody's life, like I think you get interested in the human condition. And unconscious bias is definitely one of those things that is very intrinsic to the human condition. And as much as like you hate feeling like you're getting duped by your own brain for top-down processing, as I've said over and over again, like if you didn't use top-down processing, you would literally go insane. There is no way you could treat every situation, every item, everything in your life as a new novel situation. Like it would take too much time, too many resources. You would just want to sleep 24/7 because you couldn't handle it. It would just be too much. That's probably why like babies sleep so much, is because they're taking in all this data all the time that they just got to collapse.
What babies do you have? My babies don't sleep.
Mine either.
They don't sleep when you want them to sleep.
Yeah,
Correction.
exactly. That's a good point.
They sleep all the time, just not when you want them.
Yeah, they get at least 12 hours. So.
Yeah, but not the
Just
12
the
hours
12
you want.
hours.
That's
Yeah, the 12
I
hours you're
want,
awake.
Exactly.
Hey, if you can nestle up in your wife's breast and fall asleep anytime you wanted to, you'd do it too.
Oh, I'm so jealous of that.
Glad I could make it awkward. Let's go, boys. What else you got? Oh, so my neighbor here is like asking about bias and off flavors. If you try to like condition yourself to like look for off flavors, I think most of us have experienced this. I actually talked to another guy at my house today when we were judging triples, not judging, but like trying triples, and like in your own beers, I think I'm more predisposed to like try to look for and find off flavors in my own beers than anybody else's, because you're trying to like pick your own stuff apart so hard.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's not there. So I think that's definitely something that all of us can fall into traps on. And it's always good to have that kind of trusted person, whether it's like a friend or a wife or whoever that likes to drink your beer. Just let them try it and give it to you honest and be like, yeah, this beer sucks. No, this beer's great. All flavors. What the F are you talking about?
Yeah, every time I give my beer to somebody else, I'm always like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. It's just like, yeah, you're saying it's so good. Yeah, it's not that good. Come on, it can't be that good. No.
Well, before you get too high and mighty, there is a politeness bias, and so
Yeah.
people that try
Oh
your
yeah. That's what I mean.
want
Yeah.
to like it. So you definitely have to have that, not the politeness bias echo chamber, but that trusted person like Will Allward to come in and rain on your parade.
Yeah. I just asked my wife.
Solid play. Your wife does not care about your damn feelings.
No.
That's for sure.
Not at all.
I just get it's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's good.
Yeah. It's fine. Shut up. Go away.
Stop talking about your double decoction mash and all the
Right.
hops you use. Yeah, no, it's beer. It's fine. Go away.
My,
Yep.
my wife picks apart my beers, and she's not a beer person. She just likes. She's like, this tastes like it has something weird in it. What's weird in this? And it's like, I don't know.
So the best part of Velocity.com and me becoming a contributor to her, according to my wife, is that I no longer talk about what I'm doing with my beers, because if I tell her what I'm doing, it ruins a data point. And so that's the feature for her.
That's funny.
My wife would probably like that too.
Oh
She's
yeah.
like, shut up, Will. I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah, my wife doesn't give a damn what I do with my beer. So when I talk about, I'm gonna try, I got this new hop or I got this crazy new yeast that I'm gonna try. So it's like it pulls this if you throw it at this temperature, and she's like, whatever. Who cares? Like, dude.
I'm just trying my best to keep my children alive.
Yep. As
That's
long
what
as
I
I
get.
can do that.
C student.
No, children are pass and fail. They're not graded.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Children are like the PE of life. You either participated or you didn't.
Yeah, right.
Did you wear
Either
the
they're
right
alive
shoes to PE today? Pass.
Pretty much.
Will, what was the best beer you ever brewed, and what was the worst beer you ever brewed?
Worst beer I ever brewed was not even the effective beer. It was a stupid peanut butter chocolate stout that was the grossest thing I've ever made in my entire life. But somehow my neighbor who's sitting right here, his wife liked it. She loved it. And so that was really bizarre to me, because I was ready to dump it, and my wife and his wife were just like enamored by it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the grossest thing I'd ever tasted. I don't know, probably too much lactose. There was a lot of missteps. I was getting cocky. It happens. Every now and then you put yourself out there and it's crappy. Best beer I've ever brewed. Man, that's a tough one. There was a Amarillo hopped red IPA that I've made a few times, and it, to me, like, red IPA is one of those styles that should be more popular to me, because it embodies everything I really like in a beer. That nice malty character, and again with that nice Amarillo, you get so much of that great citrus with the kind of tangerine orange flavor with it. Just so good, so amazing. Like, red IPAs are totally my thing. I'm excited for Sierra Nevada Celebration for that reason.
Oh. I was just on their website looking. Where's the nearest celebration?
Yep.
Need to
Same.
find some of that. Need to
Same.
find some of that.
Yeah, it's coming. Give it another week or two. It'll be
Man,
around.
There's like
So
one or
the
two
saddest
stores
story
in
I
my
have
area.
is that I went to the grocery store on Friday Thursday, because I wanted to see Celebration, because all the people on Discord and Facebook were like, "Oh, look at my 2 Sixers of Celebration." And so I go to the store, and they don't effing have it at the store that I go to. And so I'm like, well, I'm depressed now, so let me find 3 beers to make up for this. And so so I found a local-ish brewery called Viva that had a Schwartz beer that's seasonal, a Martin, what is it? La Muertas from Freetail, which is in Russian Imperial Stout, to kind of solace myself. And then, oh crap, what's the name of the Martin House? Is it Martin House? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's Martin House, and that's a brewery here out of Fort Worth. And it's like either it's the best beer you ever had in your stupid life, or it's just gross. And it was a peanut butter pretzel stout is what they call it.
Oh,
And it was actually pretty good. I didn't mind it. It was way better than mine.
interesting.
Oh yeah, here it is. Yep, Martin House. So
Wow.
limited release peanut butter pretzel stout. So it took 3 beers to console my lack of celebration.
It's coming, hopefully. I haven't seen it here yet, but I'm usually last on the list to get any sort of Sierra Nevada beer. So I'll get it in December, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'll come January 5th after Christmas.
Yep. Once it's old, it's like 2 or 3 months old already. So
Yeah.
I'm used
See,
to it.
I had the opposite effect. My wife was at the grocery store and she saw that the what was it? It was New Belgium. They were buy one get one, and she was like, "You want some more of this?" I was like, "Nah, is Celebration there? No, then I'm fine. I don't need anything else."
So the La Muerta Imperial Stout from Freetail, it was amazing. It was super good. Like it was really most everything I want in an Imperial Stout. Probably not as good as the one that Haven sent me last year. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Either his homebrewed version or the where was the brewery you sent me from?
Central Waters.
Both yours and that one were probably better than this one, but it's still a solid beer, and seasonal. So you got to get into the season according to Velocity's podcast this last week.
Do you guys do that? Do you guys all brew with the seasons? Because I'm heavy with that. I follow the seasons pretty closely.
Pales and
Not at
lagers
all.
for me.
I brew what I want when I want it, or when I think I'm going to want it.
You have seasons where you live.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I have
Yeah.
summer and kind of winter.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Florida,
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Oh yeah, here in Florida, it's hot or balls hot, and you got that's what you got.
It's like, do you need deodorant? Do you need deodorant for your crotch?
Yeah, pretty much. Is it a 1 or 2 shower day? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we dipped into the 40s today for the first time, so it's getting
Oh,
cold.
we were in the low 80s. It's great.
Oh Jesus.
It was 80 here.
Yeah.
Just doing 3 hours of yard work.
Oh my gosh.
I washed the cars. Yeah, it was great.
I keep telling my wife we need to move just a little bit, like Tennessee or something, just a little bit more south, so it's a little bit warm, but we still get snow. That'd be perfect.
Nobody
Wisconsin-
needs Snow Haven.
Need a little farther south and farther north than that. Oof.
See, yeah, it's 45.
nice.
I think we're around that.
Yeah, I got my camera off because I'm wearing a tank top. So
Show it off, Alex. Show it off. Wear it proud. I'll turn the recording off just for you to show your tank top off, Alex.
yeah, there's